you? San Leandro? Oakland. Well, good afternoon. Patrick Little coming at you from Oakland. We're reaching out to the African American community today, trying to address the Jewish supremacist legacy of slavery and get that Israeli aid out to the African American community so that money can go back out into the domestic economy. Well, let's see if we can't find some folks here. Oh, good afternoon, sir. Do you have a moment?
How you doing?
Good. I'm running for U.S. Senate, and I'd like to take the money we're giving to the terrorist state of Israel that's being used to kill Palestinians, including the shooting of their pregnant women in the bellies, and to address the legacy of slavery here in this country. Some interesting facts for you, and Minister Farrakhan addresses this stuff. Did you know that 40% of Jews before the Civil War owned slaves?
I didn't know that.
Well, I think it's only fitting that we then use the money that we're giving to Israel, which is being used to do terrible things in the Middle East, and help it out at home here. So, number one, we're going to start addressing the legacy of slavery with that. Number two, it stops war crimes in the Middle East. And number three, it's fitting. Jews also ran the slave trade, the transatlantic slave trade, the big slave markets here, South America, North Africa, and Arabia.
Wow.
And even today, the modern slave trade, the Eastern European white women that are trafficked out of Eastern Europe, well, they say it's the Russian mafia, but I looked into it. Do you know that the Russian mafia is all the top of it is all Jews?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, if you go back to ancient Roman times, there's this writer back then called Tacitus. And he discussed the fact that behind the Roman armies, when they got into a war and they won, there would be captives after, and the Jews would go in and buy up the people. And this is all over the world, wherever the Roman armies were, and they'd buy up the people and put them on slave markets. So, currently, Tel Aviv is where most of the women that get sold into slavery wind up, and that's where the breaking houses are. And then they get tortured and gang raped and administered opioid drugs. And well, I think I'd like to end that slave trade that's centered in Israel right now, and I'd like to address the legacy of slavery in this country. I think racial relations are at a very bad point right now, and I think this is a good step forward.
I think you're right.
Well, Patrick Little, tomorrow is June 5th. You mind sharing that with everybody?
I will.
Okay.
Thank you, man.
Nice to meet you, sir.
It's nice to meet you, bro.
Thank you. Good afternoon, folks. My name is Patrick Little. Are you residents here in California?
I'd like to take a picture with you.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
I'll try to get the camera phone.
Oh, I see. My material made it out. Yeah.
How you feeling?
Oh, motivated, caffeinated. Got my sugar going. I'm ready to go.
I heard you speaking on the road.
Can you take this back?
Oh, sure.
What day I stayed?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, would you mind if I get you on video too, ma'am?
Oh, sure.
So, who are you voting for tomorrow on June 5th, ma'am?
You,
I'm Patrick Little.
Patrick Little.
So, how are we going to address the legacy of slavery in this country?
By voting for Patrick Little.
Okay, and where's that money coming from?
Taxpayers.
Israel. We're given every Israeli family in Israel is getting the equivalent of $30,000 a year. $30,000. So if you take all the money we give to Israel every year and divide it up, we just give it to them. $30,000 a year per family. That's enough to live on. I could buy a house and live good in the country on that.
Exactly.
Now, the interesting thing about that is that Israel's committing war crimes against the Palestinians. You heard about this, where they're shooting Palestinians? So the Israelis have a shirt that their snipers wear around. They actually hunt down pregnant Arab women. Oh, there we go. And shoot them in the belly. And this is the shirt they wear. Right there, that says in Hebrew, one shot, two kills.
Oh.
See the Palestinian woman there with the target over her belly?
Oh, okay.
This is actually happening. Now, the Palestinians that got their land stolen by the Israelis tried to go home recently. And they started shooting the children and the women near that wall where they had between Israel and the Palestinian territory. They were wearing these shirts. This is a real deal thing. They celebrate this.
Exactly.
That's not something U.S. troops would do, and that's not something U.S. aid money should be buying. So just some more interesting facts of why I think that reparations should come from the aid that we give to Israel and should cut all aid to Israel. is because if you look at the U.S. Census before the Civil War, 40% country before the Civil War. Do you know what percentage of non-Jewish whites owned slaves before the Civil War?
If I had to take a guess, I want to say maybe 30%.
So less than 1%, 0.8%. And if you don't believe me, we can look up the U.S. Census together. But there's some more interesting thing. I've been reaching out to the Asian American community. I'd like to stop discrimination against them. So you hear about Harvard being all white, right?
Yes.
Well, according to a Jewish student organization, the most famous student organization in America for Jews, Hillel, they sent out a newsletter saying, "Are you Jewish? You getting ready to go to college?" They said, "Well, come to Harvard Graduate School," because there at Harvard Graduate School, according to Hillel, 67% of the students are Jews. You know what percentage of the U.S. population are Jews?
Not really.
Less than 2%.
Oh.
So 2 out of 100 people in this country are Jews, but there's 67 people out of 100 at Harvard. Now, do you think that just means that, all the African Americans and whites and Asians are dumb? And no. It means they've got some inside deals going on there.
Exactly.
Now I'm going to be handing that out in the Asian community too.
So can I vote online?
You got to go into the polling station tomorrow. So you want to go to your DMV. Oh, we got.
Is that the closest polling station?
The polling station. So go call up your DMV and ask them in the morning, "Hey, where am I supposed to vote?"
Okay.
So,
okay. So you're running for council?
No, U.S. Senate.
U.S. Senate.
I'm running against Feinstein. Guess what's interesting?
Oh, Dianne Feinstein.
Guess what's interesting about her?
Huh?
She's got dual citizenship in Israel. You can look that up.
Wow.
Now, the interesting thing about that is Jews make up 8% of the Senate and the Congress, and I believe every single one of those Jews in the Congress and the Senate is a dual citizen in Israel, except for Bernie Sanders, who got the primary stolen from him against Clinton. You remember that? Clinton stole the primary. Well, now I think Bernie had some good ideas, and I think the fact that he's not a citizen of Israel says, that says something about him.
Exactly. Well,
But-
you got my vote.
Oh, thank you.
If anybody come out here and do it by themselves and, get their votes,
So
you got my vote.
Now,
Yeah.
because I'm critical of Israel, they call me a Nazi. But I mean, look at what the Israelis are doing to the Palestinians. I'd say hunting down women, shooting them in the stomach. I think that's wrong. I mean, they're trying to kill the baby, they're trying to kill the mother. And also, I want you to look up. Starting in the 1950s, the Israelis had a program where they sterilized Africans. They were sterilizing the Ethiopian Jews, the black Jews, using radiation. And this is official record. Luis Farrakhan talks about this all the time.
What would you look up for that?
Oh yeah, make sure you look that up.
What would you go to look that up?
Israeli sterilization program for Africans or Israeli sterilization of blacks. Now it sounds too crazy to be true, right? But when I'm quoting the census and talking about Jewish overrepresentation and domination of the slave trade, one of the sources I'm quoting from, and you can write this down, is the Jewish World Encyclopedia. They brag Israel is so great and the Palestinians and the Arabs are so bad, right? MSNBC, doesn't matter if it's a Republican or a Democrat channel, it's all controlled by Zionist Jews. So the Murdoch sons, he runs the Murdoch children that run Fox News, Zionist Jews, like Feinstein. Zucker, who runs CNN, Zionist Jew. You remember we got into the Iraq War and we never found those weapons of mass destruction, right? Well, there were no weapons did. We offered $11 million to any man, woman, or child in Iraq that could help lead us to weapons of mass destruction after we toppled Saddam, right? Now, you better believe Iraq didn't have that much money. Those people wanted that $11 million. So they were all combing through the desert looking for stuff, asking people where they can find the stuff. You know what? Guess how many people were able to collect that $11 million the U.S. government was offering? 0, because the Jewish supremacist Zionist media was lying about those weapons of mass destruction. Because Israel saw the large tank army of Iraq as a potential threat to their control of the region.
Wow.
And if you don't believe me, you can also write this down and reach out to me at pat@littlerevolution.us. I can share you the organizational charts where the Jews brag that they were able to trick the American public into going into the Iraq War, and that if just 25 people in key positions in the media hadn't been around in their jobs they were at, in the words they used, if they'd been on a deserted island, the Iraq War never would have happened. Now, the Iraq War, Afghanistan War, there have been millions of civilian casualties. If you include the embargo on medicine and gasoline and stuff that was going into Iraq and those countries, we're talking about casualties in the millions. Also, Israel could topple a country they saw as a regional competitor. Now, let me tell you a little about Bashar al-Assad. You know what's going on in Syria, right?
Syria. Is that near Yemen?
Yep, that's also in the Middle East. So Syria borders Israel, and so in the news we're seeing all this stuff that looks like this guy named Assad's doing terrible stuff. They got pictures of kids with like gas masks on and stuff, like as if this guy's gassing kids. Well, here's the interesting thing about Assad, who they're calling a dictator in the media, right? He won 88.7% of the vote in 2014, and this is in an internationally verified and fair election. But in the news, they call him a dictator and a monster and all that. Now, why would he be a dictator and a monster if 88.7% of the population's voting for him? Now, Syria is a diverse country. They got Sunni and Shia Muslims, and they got Christians. Well, so the Christians are an ethnic minority there, right? Because it's mostly Muslim. Did you know that over 90% of the Christians voted for Assad? So the ethnic minorities are being so well protected by Assad that the minorities are voting for Assad even more than the majority there. So this doesn't sound like a genocidal dictator to me.
Wow.
But I tell you one thing, Israel stole in the 1960s land from Syria. They stole this region that had a lot of water and oil in it. It's called the Golan Heights, and they want to keep that. The UN has said, Israel, get out of the Golan Heights. You can't steal that land from Syria. This isn't even the Palestinians. They're going and grabbing land from other Arabs now, the Syrians. And they're saying, no, Israel, get out of there. And Israel's like, we own all the pissed politicians in the U.S. You make us, with your UN army, get out of Syria, get out of the Golan Heights. And so the American State Department, all the American senators are just like, all my campaign money comes from these big Zionist bankers and stuff. So I'm going to do whatever the heck Israel wants.
Question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Why do, like, the money that's supposed to be put in the U.S., why does it always end up helping other countries instead of us?
Simple, because the largest lobby in this country, and like a lobby that like gives money to politicians so they can run for office, is the Israeli lobby, AIPAC. I protested there about. I was protesting against about a terrorist attack that Israel did against the United States called the USS Liberty, you know, it's the most powerful lobby in this country, and we've had a few congressmen speak up, including Barbara Lee.
Oh.
She spoke up against it. You know Lee, Congresswoman Lee?
No, but my auntie works with the city council, Lynette Gibson. Yeah.
I think I met her, Alameda County?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think I might have run into her when I was doing my election paperwork. Now, Feinstein's running with millions of dollars from these Israeli and Zionist donors. I'm running, so far I think I've spent like $4,000. Just me. And I'm whooping their butts in the polls.
Yeah, that's what we want. Because I don't think Dianne Feinstein, I don't really think she did anything really that was spectacular.
Well,
She's been in office.
Well, what she does is she votes for the Iraq War. She voted for the Iraq War. She keeps on voting to send all our money to Israel.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know about you, but I look around the sidewalks, these streets, I say, you know, these could be repaved, you know?
Exactly.
If we're going to give $30,000 a year to Israeli families just for existing, I mean, there are people here that wouldn't mind having that money.
Exactly. Because they don't give their stuff to us, and it doesn't make sense. Like,
well, they're buying control of our government, so we send them the equivalent of $30,000 per family from the U.S. to Israel, and then they turn around and give back one out of every $3 of those dollars we give them back to buying our congressional candidates. So, so let's say that you just decided that you wanted to run for Congress or Senate in 2020, and you say you're pro-Israeli and you're going to make sure Israel gets taken care of. You wouldn't believe, instantly money starts flowing in. They're going to take care of you. Even if you don't have a good chance of winning, they're going to reward you for putting Israel first. And I don't believe in putting foreign countries first. I believe in putting America first.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
This country was founded on not getting tied up in a bunch of foreign wars. Like, if you go back to some of the early presidents, they're like, don't get involved in wars in Europe. Don't get involved in wars overseas. It's a waste of time.
Yeah.
Just use your money and your resources. And that's what I'm all about. I'm a Marine Corps veteran of Afghanistan. And I'm sick and tired of a foreign country controlling this country.
Exactly.
I mean,
Exactly.
and you see what Trump's doing with moving the embassy to Jerusalem, and you see him doing whatever Israel wants. That's because if he didn't, you know, he wouldn't stay president. It doesn't matter what you say when you're running. unless you're willing to stand up and say that these Zionist Jews, these Jewish supremacists rule our country from the get-go, when you get to office, you're going to do whatever they want. Because most people just run for office to get in office and stay in office.
Exactly.
It's not what I'm doing. I'm looking to change things.
That's good. That's good. That's what we're looking for.
Well, you mind if I get a quick video shaking your hand here?
Sure.
I'm live streaming now. So,
Okay.
that's all right. So, remember to vote for Patrick Little, civil rights advocate, on June 5th in California.
Vote for Patrick Little,
Thank you, ma'am.
civil rights advocates.
What was your name, ma'am, if you don't mind, or you don't have to say?
Onessa.
This is Onessa, reminding you to vote for a civil rights advocate and to stop putting Israel first. Well, I'm going to get going, ma'am, but
Okay.
share that with your neighbors and your friends and your family.
Sure will do that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks for the picture.
You're very welcome.
Okay. Ready?
I dropped my tablet. I hope it didn't break. Oh. All right. I think I turned this thing around. Okay. All right. So I'm going to cross the street here and get in the sunshine. Oh, good afternoon, ma'am. Hi, would you mind if I gave you a flyer real quick? So, I'd like to take all the money we're sending over to Middle Eastern countries like Israel and use it for reparations here in this country. You're welcome. June 5th is the election tomorrow, ma'am.
Okay.
All right. Oh, all right. I'm going to get in the sun. I feel like I want some vitamin D here. I don't got a lighter. Nah, I'm using this thing. I'm trying to quit cigarettes, so I use this thing. All right. Oh, good afternoon, folks. My name is Patrick Little. I'm running for U.S. Senate here.
How you doing, sir?
Are you folks busy or?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Oh, good afternoon, ladies. My name is Patrick Little. I'm running for U.S. Senate. Yeah, you want to talk to a candidate real quick, or are you busy?
We gotta hurry. Give me a paper.
Okay.
We gotta do that. Give us a paper.
Oh, I got too much stuff in here. A Republican, but it took a Republican to end slavery. You know, Abraham Lincoln was a Republican, right? I wanted, you know the terrible things the Israelis are doing to the Palestinians right now, right? I'd like to take the money that we're giving to Israel and instead reinvest that here in these communities and give reparations to African Americans that are descendants of slaves in this country. African Americans are the only population in this country that were brought here against their will. And I think we need to address that legacy of slavery. But there's an interesting fact. According to Louise Farrakhan and the Jewish World Encyclopedia, 40% of Jews before the Civil War owned African slaves. Now, I thought that was interesting because I'd never heard that. Now, I also mentioned in this was the fact that, do you know what percentage of non-Jewish whites owned slaves before the Civil War according to the U.S. Census? It's going to shock you. And I invite you to look this up. Less than 1%, 0.8 of 1%, okay?
You with President? Are you just like President Trump?
I'm not going to put Israel first like President Trump does. President Trump does whatever Israel wants, and I want to...
You know what, President Trump, he made it really bad for us. He really did. For everybody, really. Yeah,
Well,
for everybody. Really.
That's what happens when you put Israel first. I mean, Israel commits war crimes against the Palestinians. Starting in the 1950s, the Israelis had a program to sterilize Africans. Did you know that? They sterilized the Ethiopian Jews. No.
Yeah.
I'm going to get over here where the wind isn't blowing on my microphone. And don't worry, ladies, I'm not getting you on footage. It's just facing me. So the interesting thing about Israel right now is that they have a program of sterilization for Africans going back to the 50s. You can look this up. Louis Farrakhan talks about this. He isn't lying. I didn't believe him when I heard it, so I looked it up myself. Now I want to show you something. Here is a picture of a shirt that Israeli snipers wear around while they're shooting Muslim and Christian Palestinians in the belly. Now,
Don't break it now.
oh, I already dropped it once, it survived. So, okay, I gotta find this. So here we go. Go ahead and take a look at that, ma'am. I've got the camera taped over, don't worry. So, see there? That says in Hebrew, one Shian woman with the crosshairs of a sniper over her womb while she's pregnant. It's true. They wear this around. I swear to God, this is true. You can look this. Now, Israel's a terrorist state, and they currently, have you heard what they're doing to the Palestinians over there? Taking the land, killing the people, cutting off aid, you know, and the U.S., you know how much money the average is there? Do you know how much money they're getting, family?
What?
Take a guess, because it's probably higher than you're guessing. 30,000 a year.
We can't get it.
How come we can't have that? Look at that. You got a pothole right there. You know, that could be a guy with a job, a pothole. What I'd like to do is take 10 years worth of that money we're giving to Israel and take it as a lump sum and say, this is how we're going to begin addressing the legacy of slavery. This is the money that we're sending to a country that doesn't respect civil rights, to a country that commits genocide against ethnic minorities, and say 10 years worth of all that war-making money that we've been sending to Israel, just give it to the African-American community here, not the freshly arrived immigrants that like aren't descended of slaves, but anyone that's descended of slaves, like has at least one ancestor that was a slave here. Patrick Little, and I'm on the ballot as a civil rights advocate. As Minister Farrakhan says, and now the election's tomorrow, ma'am. Call up your DMV if you're not sure where your polling station is. They'll tell you where your polling station is.
You can go anywhere and vote, right?
You can go I think you can go to any polling station in your precinct. It has to be in your precinct.
Yeah,
okay. The key thing is here is the news media is calling me a Nazi and all this crazy stuff. I served in the Marine Corps along people of all faiths and all races. And I'm not advocating anything that these Jews in the news media say I'm advocating, because I can show you the organizational charts. Did you know that Fox News, MSNBC, the New York Times, CNBC, all these are all owned by Zionist Jews, and I can show you the leadership charts. Like you got a chart of like the president of the company and then like the vice presidents. Okay, ladies.
We got you down.
All right, don't forget to spread the good word.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna vote for you.
Oh, thank you very much.
I'm gonna vote for you.
Thank you, ladies. Have a great day.
You too.
Now, the important thing is that the truth wins out, and you just got to go around and tell people about Jewish supremacism. Oh, we got some folks at the bus station. Good afternoon, folks. My name is Patrick Little. I'm running for U.S. Senate here in California, and I want to take all that money we're giving to Israel and give it as reparations to the African-American community. Now, we're giving a lot of money out overseas to a state that commits terrible crimes against the Palestinians. I think we could use that money at home. Now, African Americans are the only population that were brought to this country against their will. Slaves on a ship. They didn't want to, they wanted to stay home. Now, I'd like to address the legacy of slavery, which exists to this day, by taking that money we're giving to Israel. The average Israeli family gets from U.S. taxpayers every year, $30,000. You can have a good house out in the country with that money. Would you like one of these flyers, folks? Spread that with your friends and your family. Tomorrow is the election. I'm hoping you all vote for me. And together we can address the legacy of slavery and stop aid to the terrorist state of Israel and start addressing that horrible legacy of slavery. Have a good day, folks. Thank you. All right. Good. I've got several people that said they're voting for me already.
There you go.
Well, yeah. So I guess try not to make people uncomfortable.
I'll be staying at a distance.
Okay.
Yep. Oh, nicotine fixes. This is what I use.
Oh, I've got my baba.
Yeah, that's not.
But I'm trying to quit the combustibles and go with the vapables, and then go to the no nicotine.
There you go.
Oh, good afternoon, gentlemen. My name's Patrick Little. I'm running for U.S. Senate. I was wondering if you had a moment. Y'all busy? Okay. Have a good day, gentlemen. Hello again, sir. Yeah, I was just over there, sir. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you. You too, sir. So just a little panoramic view here. We are in Oakland, near the border with San Leandro. This is an economically depressed area that can use some of that money that we're sending to the terrorist state of Israel that commits genocide against Palestinians and Assyrians. So I'm looking for members of the African American community to discuss the very Jewish legacy of slavery. As we know from Minister Farrakhan and the U.S. Census, 40% of Jews before the Civil War in this country owned African slaves. They owned the ships and the slave markets that were used to traffic these humans into this country. And currently, the modern slave trade of white women from Eastern Europe is controlled by Jews. So, yeah, I'm spreading the word here. We're going to address the legacy of slavery and end human trafficking by voting for Pat Little on June 5th here. So, oh, I just lost my makeshift wedding ring. Oh well, I took off my wedding ring to do some pull-ups earlier, and I put on a keychain ring, but it keeps on falling off, so I'm just going to leave it. No more slavery, no more potholes. End aid to Israel. Just waiting for this street lamp to change here. So let's look up the definition of slavery together. The use of physical force, intimidation, or attacks to get someone to change their stances on something or to back down from a position. So if you don't think what the ADL does, what the Zionist lobby does to people who challenge their tyranny is slavery, I think you need to look up what the definition of slavery is. How's my audio, by the way? Oh, good afternoon, ma'am. My name is Patrick Little, and I'm interested in fairness in academic admissions. Do you have any children that are considering going to college? No? Do you have any friends who have children that are interested in going to college? Okay. Have a good day, ma'am. So we've got a pretty diverse community here, but we're near San Leandro, where there's a very large African American population. All right. I got a binder and stuff behind this phone, so my wrist gets a little tired. Good afternoon, gentlemen. My name is Patrick Little. I'm running for U.S. Senate, and I'd like to address the legacy of slavery by using the money we're currently sending to Israel instead as reparations for the African American community. Now, African Americans are the only population in this country that were brought here against their will, and I think that's an issue that needs addressing. Would you be interested in looking at some information on me? So, currently the state of Israel is committing a genocide against the Palestinians. Minister Farrakhan talks about this quite a bit. Now, are you guys watching the news, seeing what's going on in Palestine? So, I got some interesting stuff to show you here. Right now, you got Palestinians trying to go back to their land that the Israeli colonists stole. And let's see. Let me pull up a picture. This is the shirt that the Israeli snipers, the guys with the long-range rifles, wear when they're going around shooting pregnant Palestinian women. Downloads. Sorry about that. And there it is. This is what those Israeli snipers, those Jewish supremacists, wear around while they're shooting pregnant Arab, Muslim, and Christian women. And on that shirt it says in Hebrew, the language of Israel, 1 shot, 2 kills. They're talking about shooting pregnant women here. Unarmed civilians, refugees that were put out of their homes when these Israeli Jewish supremacists came in and took their land from them. And now they're just trying to wipe them out. They want them to go away. And you know what? How much money do you think the average Israeli family gets? If you take all the money that we give to Israel every year and divide that by the number of Jewish families there, do you know how much money the average Israeli is on the take for? $30,000 a year. Imagine if you could just move to a country and magically you'd get $30,000 a year from U.S. taxpayers. Now, I'm looking around, I'm seeing potholes, I'm seeing schools and stuff that are in bad shape. I say we take 10 years, so we make it illegal to ever propose aid to the terrorist state of Israel again, that's doing horrible things to these ethnic and religious minorities over there. And we take 10 years worth of that, which is boatloads of money. Divide that up by the number of African Americans descended of slaves in this country. So not new arrivals, but people who actually had ancestors who were slaves. Yeah. And we give them their share of that 10 years worth of big bucks that were given to Israel. And then we use the rest of the money after that just for public works, schools and stuff like that. So I want to address the legacy of slavery. Now I'm going to give you some quotes here from Minister Farrakhan that you might not know. Do you know who Minister Farrakhan is? Okay. Did you know before the Civil War, 40% of Jews in this country owned black African slaves? Okay? Now, you might not believe this one, and I'm going to ask you to turn to the U.S. Census if you don't believe me. Do you know what percentage of non-Jewish whites owned slaves before the Civil War? This is going to shock you. Less than 1%. So I'm talking, if you take 1,000 Jews before the Civil War from this country, just randomly just say, okay, you, and you get 1,000 of them, just like in a classroom, and then say, okay, 400 of you stand up. That's what percentage of Jews owned slaves, black slaves, before the Civil War. Now, if you did the same thing with non-Jewish whites, and you asked in a classroom, all right, would 80 of you stand up? 80 out of those 1,000 would stand up. And that's the percentage of non-Jewish whites that owned slaves in the Civil War. But that's not, the Jews control the media. Why do you think we keep on getting in all these wars for Israel in the Middle East? Minister Farrakhan talks about this extensively, and I agree with him. And there's another man who talked about this. You know about Marcus Garvey? Marcus Garvey talked about this stuff. And why do you think you don't learn about Marcus Garvey in school nowadays? Because he didn't do whatever the heck the Jewish media wanted him to do. Marcus Garvey was a good man. He was an entrepreneur. He started his own steamliner, like early cargo ships. But you don't hear about him in school, do you? Because he wasn't friendly to the Jewish community because he knew about their role in slavery. Do you know where the modern human trafficking capital of the world is? So modern slavery today is from poor white countries. And you know who's doing it? Israelis. They call it the Russian mafia. It's really Jews from Russia. And so women get told in Eastern Europe, so in Ukraine and Belarus and countries like that, the average person makes way less than even in the poorest neighborhoods here. We're talking a few $1,000s a year. And so the women show up to these advertisements in the paper. And they show up and someone's saying, okay, we're going to give you a bartending job at a club in Western Europe or in the Middle East or in America or something. These women show up and say, okay, they get drugs and the drinks and they wake up in Israel, a city called Tel Aviv. This is where the breaking houses are, where you break the new slave's soul. And then you know why you see so many Russian women and like sexually trafficked, like Eastern European women and stuff? Because they got kidnapped by Israeli Jews and for months had their souls broken in breaking houses, just like they used to have for African Americans back in the day. They have not stopped the slave trade. They've just switched to where it's now more profitable. And to this day, this is continuing here. Now, there are some interesting things here. The fact I'm addressing here is Jewish supremacism. And I've been reaching out to the Asian community here because I think there's some facts that they need to know. There's this organization called Hillel. You ever heard of it? Okay, not many people have. It's a Jewish, sorry about that, sir, I stepped on your foot. It's a Jewish student organization. So you know how you might have like a black student union or something? Yeah. This is like the Jewish version of that. Oh. So you know what percentage of the population of this country Jews are? 1.8% or less than 2%. Now, according to Hillel, this is from a Jewish source in their guide for Jewish kids which schools to apply to. You know what percentage of the Harvard graduate school, which is like Harvard's a top school, right? That's hard to get into. Yeah. You know what percentage of the graduate student body, or what if out of 100 students of graduate students at Harvard grad school, guess how many of those 100 would be Jews?
70, 80.
67. So over 2/3 of the graduate student body at Harvard is Jews, but they're less than 2% of the population. Now that sounds like supremacism to me, doesn't it? It's an issue we're going to have to address together. So, number one, let's end aid to Israel because of what they're doing let's address the legacy of slavery here by getting reparations out to the only group of people that were brought here against their will. And my name's Patrick Little. Tomorrow is voting day. Call up your local precinct, your DMV, and say, where am I supposed to vote? And I'd like you to vote for Patrick Little. That's my name, and I'm on the ballot as civil rights advocate. Now, I'm running as a Republican, but so was Abraham Lincoln. He's the guy that ended slavery, and I want to be the guy that addresses its legacy. Well, thank you very much and have a great day. You got any questions for me? Oh, don't call me sir. I was enlisted. I wasn't an officer. I was in the Marine Corps. You call officers sir. I was just enlisted. As we used to say in the Marine Corps, don't call me sir. I have a father. It's a joke about officers. But you folks got any questions for me?
No, I'll just look up what you told me to. Do a little bit of research.
Okay.
But thank you very much.
Very welcome. And if you want to ask me any questions specifically, I'm about 3 weeks behind on my emails now, but pat@littlerevolution.us. Now, you got to remember the media is very pro-Israeli, right? They don't have nice things to say about me. They make a lot of stuff up. But anytime they say that they had an interview with me and they say that I said a whole bunch of horrible stuff, well, I don't talk to the news unless I'm recording my own version, which I'm not. I'm streaming now, but I'm not showing anyone's faces. I also always have a tape recorder. And so anytime that lying Jewish supremacist Zionist news media does a hit piece on me, I say in response to it, that's a pack of lies. And here's the full interview, unedited. So make sure if you see any crazy sounding news about me, go to my website and look for the full interviews because they're lying, just like they lied about Marcus Garvey.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. You too. Remember, thank you. America first, not Israel.
Good luck.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, sir. My name is Patrick Little. I'm running for U.S. Senate. I was wondering if you had a moment of time.
I'm going to go handle the meeting right now.
All right. Well, you have a good day, sir. And you said you're going to a meeting? Well, good luck with that. But if you want to look at this later, I got some information for you. So there you go. I want to take the money we're giving to Israel and use that to do reparations for the only community of people that was brought here against their will to this country, and that would be African Americans descended as slaves.
I read.
All right, sir. If you have any questions, littlerevolution.us. Have a great day and good luck at your meeting. All right. Thanks, folks. Oh, you too, sir. All right. This is much better canvassing than at Chinatown. That was a very strenuous day yesterday. So we got a lot of English speakers here compared to over there. Oh, my shirt's coming out. My shirt's coming out of my pants here. I gotta get this. I've lost so much weight during this campaign. I've got to get my stuff tailored down. Well, yeah, except when you need to pay someone to tailor the clothes again, it costs like $70. Oh, good afternoon, sir. My name is Patrick Little. I was wondering if you had a moment. You have a moment, sir. My name is Patrick Little. I'm running for U.S. Senate. So, little information for you here. So I'm running on a platform to end aid to Israel and use the money we're giving to Israel to give reparations to the African American community here. Say again, sir? I don't understand, sir.
You need some money.
Yes, sir. I'm looking to do reparations. Vote Patrick Little tomorrow, and we'll work on getting those reparations for you. But right now, the terrorist nation of Israel, they're getting $30,000 per family per year. That's a lot of money from the U.S. government. That's a lot of money. Can you imagine if that was going as reparations here in this country? And then that money would get spent here helping our business? You want to share this with your family, sir? Oh, well, just a moment, sir. There, sir. Okay. So. No, I think he was hungover. He seemed tired. Just a moment, folks. Just a moment here. Let me mute the. I don't know how to mute the live stream. I'm not very savvy with this stuff. I do networks. I do routers and switches and firewalls and all that. But you asked me to play with Apple equipment, and I got no idea what I'm doing. Oh, good afternoon, sir. My name is Patrick Little. Okay.
Health response consultant.
very positive. Most of them are woke to what's going on in Palestine. So, a lot of them already knew about the Israeli snipers shooting the pregnant women. But what they're something that none of them that I've run into so far knew about was the Israeli sterilization program that they've had for blacks since the 1950s.
How did they react to that?
Shocked. I told them, don't believe me, look it up. Minister Farrakhan talks about it too. Some of this stuff is shocking though. It's true too. Here, let me get some nicotine in me. My brain isn't working right. No cigarettes, just a vape. The language barrier yesterday was really hurting my efforts. Today we don't have that. So we are near the border with San Leandro in Oakland here. Very large population of African Americans descended of slaves. So they're interested in getting that issue, the legacy of slavery, addressed. And a lot of them are very interested to hear about the current Jewish dominance over the slave trade of white women from Eastern Europe. And I tell them about how the breaking methods to break that person's soul, it was very similar to what was used to break slaves when the Jews were getting them ready for market here in the United States. Oh, good afternoon, ma'am. My name's Patrick Little. Okay. Oh, good afternoon, sir. My name's Patrick Little. I'm running for U.S. Senate. Are you busy?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I want to end aid to Israel and give it as reparations here in this country. Have a good day, sir. I tell you one thing, though. Part of the addiction with the cigarettes is the carbon monoxide. That gives you, like, oxygen deprivation or something. Oh, good afternoon, ma'am. Are you eligible to vote here in California?
What you smoking?
Nicotine. You don't smoke. Okay. I think they thought I had tetrahydrocannabinol in my thing. So we're getting close to cutting timing in the near future. Well, what I'm looking to do is find members of the community congregating and socializing. And, it's hard. What I was doing yesterday in Chinatown was I was in an area with a lot of stores where people are running errands. And here you have members of the community getting ready, talking about the election tomorrow. So this is perfect. Okay, I'm going to look at the chat questions here. I don't think I've looked at them yet. No, I'm telling about Feinstein being a dual citizen. Her going to Israel all the time. You know, Senator Joe Lieberman, I talked to one of the people that used to be on his staff a while back. And you know, Senator Lieberman lives in Israel and only pretends to maintain a household in, oh crap, not Rhode Island, is it? Where's Senator Joe Lieberman from? Crap. But yeah, anyhow, Lieberman, he only shows up once in a while. He pretends to maintain a household here. Lieberman lives in Israel. And also Feinstein spends a lot of time there too. That's where their allegiance is. Oh, good afternoon, folks. My name is Patrick Little. I'm running for U.S. Senate. I'd like to end aid to Israel and use that for investment here in our local communities and reparations for people descendant of African slaves. All right, have a good one, folks. Okay, you're busy? Okay.
Are you serious?
Good afternoon, ma'am. My name is Patrick Little. I'm a U.S. Senate candidate. If you want to take that, I want to end aid to Israel and use it for reparations. We're getting the word out. Now think about all that money. So $30,000 a year per household is what the average Jewish family is getting aid in Israel. If you take all the money we give them and divide it up by the number of Jewish families, can you imagine how much business would boom around here if the African American community had 10 years worth of that all at once. Think about that. All the different investment and consumption that would happen. We're talking about a major boom in the economy. Yep. And that would also mean a heck of a lot less refugees for Europe. So remember, Israel is the name of the Jewish organization that's in charge of making sure that Europe keeps its borders open for the refugees that Israel creates. Think about if Israel didn't have all that terrorist money to go and displace all those people. We wouldn't have these massive waves of people going in and disrupting, how things are going on in Europe. So ultimately, by removing the money from the terrorist state of Israel, we're saving Europe from a huge burden on its social benefits programs. Everybody wins when you cut aid to Israel. That's the message today. Stop Jewish supremacism. Okay, we're coming up on some members of the community here. Let's see if they're interested or receptive to the message. You guys ready to end Jewish supremacism? All right. There we go. Oh, what's your favorite game for that, sir?
Huh?
My name is Patrick Miller. I used to play a lot of Nintendo growing up. I'm trying to end aid to the terrorist state of Israel. I don't know if you've heard what Minister Farrakhan has had to say about what's going on there against the Palestinians, the religious and ethnic minorities over there. Terrible stuff being done with U.S. taxpayer money. You know how much money the average Jewish family in Israel gets from the United States taxpayer? If you take all the money we give them every year and divide it up by the number of Jewish families over there, guess how much each one of those families is getting? $30,000. That's enough to live on. You don't even need to work then. So what I would like to do is share some facts from Mr. Farrakhan here. And I don't agree with everything he says, but he has some very important facts. Did you know before the Civil War, the slave trade in South America, North Africa, and Arabia were all dominated by Jews? 40% of Jews in this country, according to the U.S. Census, and you can look this up in Minister Farrakhan's books, The Secret Relationship, the video here. 40% of Jews before the Civil War owned African slaves. Now, this might shock you, and you might want to look this up if you don't believe me. This is in the U.S. Census. Do you know what percentage of non-Jewish whites in this country owned slaves before the Civil War? It's going to shock you. Less than 1%, 0.8%. So there's a reason why you hear that whites were responsible for slavery, not Jews. It's the same reason why you hear about quote-unquote white supremacism at Harvard. According to a Jewish student organization, you can look this up, there's a Jewish website. Like the African Student Union you might have at some colleges? This is the Jewish version of that. It's called Hillel. According to their guide in 2017 for selecting colleges for Jews to go to, their top advice was Harvard had a top 5-star rating. Because 67% of the graduate students at Harvard, which is like that's a top university, right? That's really hard to get into. Like you go to Harvard, you got it made in the shade, you'll get any job you want. 67% of their graduate students were Jews. Now you know what percentage of this country Jews are?
United States?
Yeah, less than 2%, 1.8%. So in a room of you scoop up 100 random Americans on average, just 2 of them would be Jews, less than 2. So, but they're almost the entire student body at Harvard, which is like the keys to power, getting a degree from a top school like that, or Yale, or Duke, one of those good ones, or Columbia. So this is typical across all the top institutions. But you hear all the Jewish newspapers saying white supremacy at Harvard, too many whites, right? Do you know what percentage of incoming freshman students at Harvard were non-Jewish whites last year? Now, whites are about 65% of the population. So what percentage of incoming students at Harvard do you think were white? Non-Jewish whites.
Non-Jewish?
Yeah.
No. About 20.
12%.
Well,
Yeah.
really?
But what the Jews do is they say, oh my God, Harvard's 80% white, when they're taking 12% white plus 67% Jewish, and they're saying 80% white. It's the same thing they do with the slave trade. Minister Farrakhan talks about this all the time, and the Jewish media is always hearing him. Now, there's an interesting fact I'd like you to know. Do you go to church, sir? You consider yourself Christian? Okay, yeah, I was raised Catholic. I go to Protestant church sometimes. I got a Catholic church I like to go to now. Did you know, do you know about communism in Russia? Like starting around World War I, they went communist for a bit?
No.
Okay, so have you heard of the Red Army or Trotsky? So the Soviet Union, right? Did you know 85 out of 100 of their senators, they're what they called commissars, were Jews back then. So almost their entire government got taken over by a Jewish revolution. You know what the first thing they did was when they took control of Russia back in the 1920s? Outlawed Christianity and killed all the priests. I'm not kidding. You know it's illegal to have a Christian display on public ground here, like the nativity scene with the baby Jesus and Mary and Joseph. It's illegal to do that on public ground. You can't put that in front of a courthouse. You can't put that in front of a town hall. You can't put that in front of a city hall. It's illegal. But do you know what they have in front of the White House every single year? A 200-foot tall Jewish symbol called a menorah. Now, if we put up a big statue of Jesus in front of the White House every year around Christmas, we'd go to jail. It sounds crazy, but everything I'm telling you is true. And if you don't believe me on any of this stuff, I invite you to look it up. The figures on slavery that I'm quoting to you are from a Jewish book called the Jewish World Encyclopedia. They brag about this stuff. But they don't print it in the newspapers for us to read. Do you know, according to Orthodox Judaism and Sephardic Judaism, when their Messiah comes, because they don't believe Jesus was a Messiah, guess how many slaves each Jew is going to get according to their prophecy, like what they believe? 40,000. So I don't know of any other religion that has as its utopian dream or its paradise dream, like the end goal, having 40,000 slaves apiece. And you wonder why they're treating the Palestinians so bad over there. It's because they don't see, most of them don't see non-Jews as human. Actually, in the Talmud, which is what they have instead of the New Testament, like we have the New Testament, the Gospel of Jesus Christ, in the Jewish version of that, so they said, okay, the Christians came up with the New Testament, we got to write something. So they wrote the Talmud. They said that non-Jews don't have souls. In other words, we're animals, Jews. And actually, Jews, according to many studies, run the black market for human organs. So you know how oh no, I'm on the waiting list for a kidney or a liver or whatever? There's a black market for that where people go steal kidneys and livers from people and sell it. Do you know who runs that? The Israelis. Well, and actually I can show you quotes. If you write to me at pat@littlerevolution.us, I can give you quotes, video, and articles about Jewish rabbis saying, if you need an organ from a non-Jew, just take it. Anyhow, my name's Patrick Little, and I'm hoping that you vote for me tomorrow, June 5th, here in California. I'm running as a civil rights advocate, so find Patrick Little under my name. It says Republican Civil Rights Advocate. Now, you might say, hold on, Republican? Want to remind you, Lincoln was a Republican. He ended slavery, and I'm not on board with what Trump's doing in the Middle East, bombing Syria and helping out the Israelis. So I think it took a Republican to end slavery, and it's going to take a Republic now to address its legacy. I'm running on almost no money. I've spent like $5,000 so far, because that's how much I've been able to raise. Feinstein, the woman I'm running against, who's a dual citizen of Israel, she spent millions. She's got millions available to her. I'm running on almost no budget, and I'm kicking butt in the polls. So let's take corporate and Zionist money out of our elections. Let's make it illegal for lobbies for foreign governments or for lobbies for corporations to give money to politicians. We don't want our politicians bought and sold. I'd be happy when I'm a politician if they just gave me enough money to pay for an apartment and pay for my food. I don't need anything fancy. I'm here. Ultimately, I'm a Marine Corps veteran, and I'm looking to continue serving my country. And let's just say I had citizenship in Russia, right? Do you think a Russian should be allowed to serve in the U.S. Senate and vote on what our country's going to get to do? Well, why is Dianne Feinstein, who's a citizen of Israel, and you can look this up, this is true, allowed to vote in our U.S. Senate?
She's got a lot of pool.
She's got a lot of money.
That's part of the pool.
Well, I'm looking to win without that type of pull. I'm trying to win with the pull of the truth, sir. Well, appreciate your time, sir. I hope your popsicles didn't melt while I was talking to you.
Okay.
Patrick Little, June 5th, sir, tomorrow.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good afternoon, sir. My name is Patrick Little. How are you doing today? Good. I'm looking to end aid to Israel, sending all that money overseas to a country that's doing all these bad things to Palestinians, and I'd like to give that money out to American citizens who are descended of slaves. African Americans are the only population of people that were brought to this country against their will. Now, we ended slavery over 100 years ago, but we haven't addressed its legacy. And part of addressing that legacy includes reparations. Now, I'm running as a Republican, but as a civil rights advocate, and I'd like you to remind you that Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. So, are you tracking with what's going on in Israel and Palestine, what they're doing to the
I'm a political activist. Back in 1968, born in 1989, I'm the original Black Panther, White people, and then when the Pink Panthers came out, we all Panthers.
So you know about Marcus Garvey? Oh, all right. Yeah, I'm a fan of Marcus Garvey. He was an entrepreneur, and he did not believe that Jews should be allowed to lead the civil rights advocate movement for blacks. And starting with the ADL and the NAACP, and not until the 1970s was a black man allowed to assume the presidency over the NAACP. So for nearly 100 years, you had a bunch of Jews running the NAACP, pretending.
That last part.
Okay, so you know the NAACP was founded a little over 100 years ago, right?
Run by whom?
Communist Jews. Not until the 19...
Okay, wait.
Not...
You have it right.
Go ahead.
No, I'm saying, okay. So when did they start calling Martin Luther King communist?
Marcus Garvey was the true...
I'm talking about... Okay, come on.
Marcus Garvey was the true leader of the African Americans. 80% of African Americans at the time, when in the 1920s, when Marcus...
Let's go back to Africa.
Well, but it didn't have to be back to Africa. What I'm saying is he had support in the community.
He's ready to leave this country. He's ready to go, and none of people...
Yeah. So Marcus Garvey was interested in that. Okay. But what I'm saying is we had many African American pastors that did not want to participate in Martin Luther King's seminars because
wait. Who are we? Are they we or we are they or down there?
Well,
who are we and who are they?
In the 1970s, in the 1960s, the FBI recorded orgies that Martin Luther King was having. Now there were.
Wait a minute.
Go ahead.
And they reported Nixon doing other things. They reported Kennedy's doing that, but they were trying to change the world. And what's his name?
I'm Patrick Little.
Okay.
Yeah, well, you know, John.
I'm just asking questions.
No. I'm open to questions. So the interesting thing about Jewish supremacism, do you know that Israel has an illegal nuclear weapons program?
Well, if one has them, we all should have them. And then counterbalance, we might push the wrong button, we all going to go up this plan together. So what are you saying? What? Just of your, and Castro, when I was in a newspaper, and Kennedy smarter than Castro, and I saw more newspapers that week. So back then, you had to...
Sir, could you speak just a little bit louder so I can hear you better? I'm sorry.
I said,
Very good. I'm listening, sir. I just want to make sure I hear you.
Oh, good. Slow down.
Okay.
I was there. You wasn't. How old are you?
I'm 34, sir.
I'm 69. So, what part of now? About Castro and communism and.
You're talking about the Bay of Pigs, right?
Hold it. I'll tell you something.
Okay.
Okay. This is now. Don't have to be on your knees.
Oh no, I'm listening. This is. Yeah.
You say anything you want to.
Okay. I'm just stretching my knees out here.
But wait a minute. If he talks, I'm gonna talk back.
Oh yeah, I'm listening.
Don't get nervous.
I'm not nervous.
Now, when the Bay of Pigs. But I was there, and everybody else, but Russia was trying to get with Cuba, and so Kennedy said, we didn't want this on this hemisphere, and he meant, he's founded the Castro, I'm not Castro Valley, I'm talking city of Castro. Hey, old country.
I know.
Oh yeah, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right, you're all right. Okay, so at that time I was selling newspapers, right?
Okay.
So everybody was waiting to see what happened. So Kenny said, since you could get him up here, we're gonna watch you take your place. And he surrounded Cuban Goody Goo, and everybody stopped and see what's gonna happen. That's Bay of Pigs, you know. And same thing goes with carry on. See, I was there. Thank you. Stop my life.
Help the people.
I was helping people. Now,
You got it.
oh, we're taking a breath.
Yeah. So let me make sure while you catch your breath, let me make sure I understand what you said here. So you're talking about Kennedy's involvement in the attempt at the coup in Cuba there against Castro. You're talking about the Bay of Pigs, right?
And you can tell me about it. I'm gonna tell you.
Oh yeah, no, I'm listening. So you know,
I'm listening.
do you know the reason I believe that Kennedy was killed?
He tried to let our people go for the third time. I know why both Kennedy were killed. I know why Jews were killed way back in the Second World War. They fighting so. What part of I know that Hitler had mannerisms just like Trump, and he reminded me of Trump. And
Well, Trump's been supporting the terrorist state of Israel, and they're doing a terrible thing to Palestinians over there.
It was okay. So we're supposed to believe Jews. We've been in the same religion as Jews, and so we've been doing the same thing. They burned you up, and they fried us and all us. And even when that movie came out at Grand Lake.
Well, who owns
Hollywood?
Hollywood?
Quiet when I'm talking.
Okay.
I was disgusted with the way those kids, little kids, when I was at the what's the name, theater? Because we both been so much shit. So I was trying to unify and change the world. But Hitler was part Jewish.
Well, sir, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I got another. If you're interested more in learning about my campaign, it's littlerevolution.us. So I'd like to take the aid that we're giving to Israel and use it as reparations for the African Americans descended of slaves in this country. It took a Republican, Abraham Lincoln, to end slavery, and I think it's going to take a Republican to address its legacy. One more time, sir.
You're going to vote against Donald Trump.
If he does anything to try and help Israel, I will.
I'm telling you guys decided. I'm saying I'm a vote. Don't you do I know what percent of you see Berkeley students are trying to get in, and why is it more liberal? You see Berkeley, one Berkeley Capital in 1949, was an ACC bookstore at the Gap to Honor.
I've been to that bookstore.
I was there doing apple history, and you know, the student jumped down there because he had the wrong grades during that era, and he jumped off the roof because he got an A or B or F or something, and I was there in that era, and if he fell on me, the both of them died.
Well, you know, what I'm looking to do is stop the loss of innocent lives by cutting off aid to Israel, who's using the money to commit genocide against the Palestinians. And I hope you have a great...
Okay, and I hope you all stop using racism as a scapegoat. When they say the whole world is an oyster, they mean, say if you woke up and your wife made you mad, you push your button, then when the buttons go, they're going simultaneously, so you all need to band, and there'll be nowhere to go and nowhere to hide. You know what I'm saying?
Well, we want to avoid nuclear war, that's for sure, sir.
Yeah, who are we?
My name's Patrick Little, and I'm a peace candidate. I'm on the ballot as a civil rights advocate, and I hope you vote for me tomorrow on June 5th. Yes, sir. Call up your DMV if you're not sure where to vote, and they'll tell you where you need to go.
I'm sure Donald Trump will tell you where to go.
Oh, I don't do what Donald Trump says. He's making big mistakes in the Middle East. I don't want to go to war with Syria.
Middle East, that's their problem. You go to the Middle East, that's where we all jump. Vietnam was, isn't it? We jumped in there.
My father was a Vietnam veteran. I'm a Marine Corps veteran of Afghanistan. I'm against war.
I was in the master unit.
Go ahead. I was a
laboratory technician. So
in the Navy?
Army, U.S. Army. Army.
Okay,
and
not
we
Navy.
thought the
Yeah.
Marines were silly because they're supposed to go in first, come out last. So I sent an extra year, make sure that I wouldn't go where no one has gone before in that era. So I sent an extra year because chose your own MOS.
Oh, I was a 0651. That was my MOS.
Good. I was born in 1969. When you born?
1984. I'm a little bit younger than you, just a little.
Good. Okay. You asked me about Marcus Garvey? Okay. I went to UC Berkeley, but I mean, tell me something about, okay, I'll tell you, we all learn something every day.
I'm sorry, one more time?
We all learn something every day.
Oh, yeah, every day. Life's about learning.
Right. Nice meeting you.
You too, sir. My name's Pat. What was your name?
Kenneth Leroy, not Leroy. Leroy Henderson.
Kenneth Leroy Henderson. Henderson. Like the Air Force Base.
Henderson. Henderson.
There's an Air Force Base with that name, too.
Henderson?
Yeah, it's a good name.
Henderson's in Texas.
That's for rape, reparation now.
I mean, Henderson
It's a common name in this country. It's a good name.
is good.
Well, I got to get going, sir. I got to talk to some more members of the community here. But remember, June 5th, Patrick Little, civil rights advocate. Thank you for talking to me. I enjoyed our talk today, sir. Have a good day.
Big night.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon. My name is Patrick Little. I'm running for U.S. Senate here in California. I was wondering if I could have a moment of your time, maybe ask for your vote. My name is Patrick Little. I'm running for U.S. Senate. I was hoping I could get a moment of your time if you had some free time. Talk to you about the vote.
I'm not off the scholarship.
Oh, all right. Well, enjoy the rest of your day, sir.
I'm not trying to take
No, I understand.
I'm just not off the scholarship.
Well, you want to maybe look at this later, or are you busy? Okay. Well, enjoy your day, sir. Thanks for talking to me. You too, sir. Thank you. Well, good afternoon, folks. Any of you interested in talking about the election tomorrow? Okay. Well, enjoy the rest of your day, folks. Okay. Good afternoon, sir. My name's Patrick Little. Do you have a moment of time? Well, I'm running for U.S. Senate in California. And I don't know if you're aware of what's going on over in Palestine. U.S. tax dollars are being used to commit horrible crimes. You want to look at it? Sorry, I'm not.
Can't be no worse than John
Dang it. I'm no good at this stuff. So that's a shirt right there worn by an Israeli sniper. You know what that says right there in Hebrew, the language of Israel? One shot, 2 kills. And that's a picture of a pregnant Palestinian woman. That with that gun is pointed right at her womb where her baby is. That's evil, right? You know what's paying for those bullets, right? U.S. tax dollars. We shouldn't be funding this type of stuff. Now, what I can tell you, one thing is that the only population brought to this country against its will is the African American population. What I'd like to do is do something with that money that's being used to do something bad right now. What's going on in Palestine? What these Jewish supremacists are trying to do over in Syria, killing off the ethnic and religious minorities, it's evil, and I want to put a stop to it. So what we do is we take that money from that terrorist state of Israel that has attacked the United States in several false flag terrorist attacks, and we give that money, 10 years of it, which works out to about $30,000 per Israeli family right now. So every year we send so much money to Israel. If you were to divide it up by the average Jewish family there, each family would be getting $30,000. That's a lot of money. We're just paying them to commit terror acts over there. So what I'd like to do...
We should be getting our money and
Yes.
20 acres in our field.
Well,
Yeah, I go about 28, about 48 get my milk too up in Mississippi. That's a race.
Well, I think the best way to start is with taking the money that we're giving to Israel that's doing bad things to ethnic and religious minorities, and give that money to people here that need that legacy of slavery addressed. Now, if you want to talk to Minister Farrakhan's people, he's got some very interesting information. Oh, well, he might share this information with you. So I've been reaching out to everyone across this community here, letting them know.
I have a lot of his stuff on YouTube.
I'm a big fan of Minister Farrakhan. I've been trying to talk to him, but he hasn't responded yet. Maybe you could put in a word for me. I'd love to talk to him.
Yeah.
Now, one of the facts I learned from Minister Farrakhan was the fact that 40% of Jews in this country owned slaves before the Civil War.
Oh, yeah.
But all you ever hear about is white Christian guys, right?
Jury. That's why they call jury. You mentioned something like that.
Oh, I didn't.
He talks a lot about Jews.
Yeah, no, well, it's the
He
truth.
says the stuff they own, basketball teams, this and that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, now, the interesting thing there is that, so Jews are less than 2% of the population. So you take 100 Americans at random, no more than 2 of them are going to be Jews on average, right?
Right.
But, you know, if you take 100 Harvard graduate school students and you ask how many were Jewish, 67 out of that 100 would say I'm a Jew. Now, the thing is, how can 2% of the population take up 67% of the best seats at a good school like that? Now, you go to Harvard, you got it made, right? You get that Harvard degree, you're going to be making good money, maybe get to be a judge. It's like the keys to the castle for the elite, right?
Yeah.
Well, they're taking up all the spots. Do you think that African Americans and Asians and whites are getting their fair share? If they're taking up 2/3. Oh, yeah. Well, it was a pleasure meeting you. Can I ask for your vote tomorrow, sir?
Yeah, I'm voting.
Patrick Little, civil rights advocate, sir. Thank you, sir. Have a great day. You're welcome. Okay. Yeah, so I tell you what, people are very receptive to the truth here. They don't have this they don't have, we're talking to people here that have a legacy of them being persecuted here, so they're not too sympathetic to these Hollywood movies about Jews being the eternal victim here. And if a group does something wrong, I'm finding that African Americans are some of the first people to say, hey, they did something wrong, go ahead and say it. So I'm getting a lot of engagement here that I'm not getting in a lot of other communities. And I think that comes from the legacy of slavery, especially when they figured out who was behind it. Sorry, this vape thing isn't quite as good as the nicotine I get from cigarettes because I don't get the carbon monoxide. So my lungs are getting more oxygen than they know what to do with right now. Oh. Well, I said I was quitting cigarettes tomorrow. Maybe I'll have some cigarettes tonight, but it's not easy. Quitting nicotine, they say some studies say it's as addictive as heroin. I don't know if I believe that, but I think how easily available they are makes them pretty addictive. But I've had my fill of the sun. I'm probably getting a burn here, so I'm gonna cross the street here in a second and probably grab a soda from over here. Now, maybe a lemonade. I could go for a lemonade. Oh, that hits the spot. Oop. Now, I'm going to be heading to some more neighborhoods today. I got to figure out how to get into this place. This smells good. Oh, I don't have any credit cards on me. Yeah. Very well, sir. So, yeah, it's a beautiful day here, but it's pretty sunny out, and I've been out in the sun a lot. I'm starting to feel the kind of that tingle you get before the sunburn. Yeah? Oh, that's a good place. Do you have my credit card on it? Okay. Oh, dang it. I need to get my battery pack here. I'm down to like 20% battery, but I'll keep streaming here. Now, I used to grow up, I used to go to a place that did fried chicken and fried fish. They call it fish and chips. So I'm going to take a little break here and get some lunch. I am starving. So remember, let's defeat supremacism together, civil rights for all, and let's end Jewish supremacist privilege. Have a good one, guys. I got to take a break and eat. I'm starving.